Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video and welcome to day 7 of our F125 Hotlap and Setup series. Yes, we're back today here for the first race in the European leg of the season. We're back at the Autodromo Nazionale, or Enzo e Dino Ferrari of course, for the Imola Grand Prix or Emilia Romagna Grand Prix, whatever we want to call it. Of course, this place, the spiritual home of Ferrari, alongside Monza. It's a special place. It's probably, or maybe, the last game that we see Imola on for quite a while, because it doesn't look likely that Imola is going to remain on the F1 calendar for 2026. But yeah, this place though, obviously quite a high downforce circuit, quite a high speed circuit. It's old school. You need a lot of commitment through a lot of the corners as well, so it is one of those laps that when you get it hooked up, it is absolutely fantastic. But a bit like Miami in yesterday's video, it can be quite difficult with the new curbing inside F125. You know, you've really got to try and mount the car over the curbs. You will find that it will try and upset the balance quite a lot as well, so you have got to be really, really careful with it. Of course, if you're new around here and you are enjoying all of these setups, please do make sure you hit that sub button. We're trying to hit 15k here on the channel at the moment. We're making very good progress up towards 12,000 right now, so I cannot thank you guys enough for the continued support. As always, timestamps will be linked down below as well, of course, if you just want to head to certain points of the video. But yeah, without further ado then, let's head first of all into our track guide. We're making our way then through the final couple of corners, obviously two 90-degree left-handers to kickstart a lap here from Imola then. Obviously out of the final corner, you're going to be in 4th gear, and your first target, of course, is aiming for that DRS board. Don't go all over the white line on the inside, but keep the car hugged. I would say the furthest you want to drift out is basically to these grid boxes. Again, tightest line possible through kind of the first little kink at the start of the race. It allows you to get a straight line run down in towards turn 1 then. Of course, it's just a line of least resistance. But yeah, this start-finish straight where it's quite bendy, it can be really, really difficult to go wheel to wheel with other drivers. Braking marker for turn 1 then is going to be the 100-meter board there, or the start of the curb. Of course, luckily, the curbs here at Imola are beautifully painted with the Italian flag, so that is very, very useful when you start a lap. You're going to be up in 8th gear, and then you're going to cycle all the way down into 5th if you're on a qualifying run, 4th gear if you're in a race run. Try and attack this first curb as best as you can. They get all the way over that Italian flag. The same through turn 2. Just be very, very careful on the throttle on the exit. You will find that the car might try and get a little bit unstable. If you're really struggling with it, I would say avoid the curbs through these first few corners, the Tamburello chicane. But you will ultimately compromise yourself a little bit of time. It is one of those tracks where fortune does favour the brave. But again, if you just cannot kind of find the consistency, then I would say that it's just easier to avoid them, because others are going to make mistakes through those chicanes as well there. Up then in towards the Gio Villeneuve chicane, 7th gear on the way in. You want to be aiming for that 50-meter board. Down 1 gear, flick the car in again over all of the curbing. Try not to brake in towards the second part if you're on a qualifying lap. Down another gear, attack the curbs, 5th on the way through. Don't let the car run too wide on the exit. But make sure then you're nice and early on the throttle. Bring the car over to the right-hand side, ready for Tosa. Again, you want to be aiming for that 50-meter board, down from 5th gear all the way into 2nd. Avoid this inside curb, though, like the plague. It is awful inside F125 and will really upset the car. Short shift into 3rd on the exit, just for the smoothest traction on the way out. But then you want to be keeping the car over on the right-hand side as you make your way up the hill. You've got a small chance to breathe before we head in towards the next turn, but you're going to be all the way up once again in 7th gear there as we make our way up. Hug the right-hand side of the circuit. Again, you want to be looking at about the 50-meter board there. Again, in qualifying, trim down 1 gear. In race, trim down 2. Try to avoid this curbing in its entirety. I find is just the better line. And then again, nice and early on the throttle as you make your way off of the corner as well. Bring the car back over to the left-hand side as you plunge back down the hill in towards Acqua Minerale. This corner, really, really satisfying in a Monday Formula 1 car. Back in 7th gear on the way in, and then just tip the car completely flat out through the first part. As soon as you get off that curb, down the gears into 4th. Again, in race trim, I would probably be using 3rd. Attack the curbing on the inside, but try and aim to give yourself a straight run off of the corner as well. You can use that curbing on the outside off the corner as well. You know, it is there. The camber will hug you in just a little bit, But yeah, like I said, try and get the power down in as straight a possible line as you can. It'll be the easiest, obviously, for keeping the wheel speed up. Allow the car to slowly be brought back over to the left-hand side of the circuit once again. And now you're going to be braking just as you reach the Italian flag there. Maybe ever so slightly later if you're feeling quite confident as well. But yeah, back down on the brakes. Of course, the first part of the chicane, you've always been able to take quite a lot of curb through, so you can get the outside wheels kind of on it. I'll try and just do it very, very carefully here. You can see they get the wheels on the curb. You see it doesn't invalidate the lap time. Third gear through the first part. Again, in race trim, I would be down into second gear through the second. Try and get the car straightened up. Be very, very careful of that new gravel trap on the outside, because it will punish you. The amount of times I dipped a wheel in the gravel and just went straight off into the inside wall, you guys would not believe. Then, of course, the DRS detection point down here as well. It's a really, really important one on this lap. So if you're floating around the 1 second zone off the car in front of you, use a little bit of battery in race trim as well, just to carry yourself a little bit of extra speed towards this DRS detection line. Again, you're going to be all the way up in 7th gear as you make your way down in towards these final two 90-degree left-handers. Again, I would be braking just after the 100-meter board, about 90 meters out in towards this penultimate corner, and I would be bringing the car all the way down in towards 3rd gear. Finally, these are a couple of curbs that you can attack quite safely. Try and get as much of the car over the first one as you can. Allow the car to drift out wide, though, to give yourself the best run through the final corner. 4th gear, you short shift up on the way in, again in qualifying trim only. Attack that curbing, foot buried to the floor as you make your way out. Be careful not to run wide, and then as you cycle back up through the gears towards the start-finish line, don't forget to open the DRS just before you make it back to the checkered flag. And there you go, that is going to be a lap of the Imola circuit. Like I said, it's a really, really tough one to try and get hooked up inside F125. A bit like Miami in yesterday's video. If you enjoyed it on F124, the magic is still there, but it is a lot more difficult to try and get hooked up. You can start to see why a few drivers were making mistakes IRL, obviously a couple of weekends ago when we raced there as well. But yeah, let's head back to the garage though, and I'll talk you guys through the setup. Well, back then in pit lane, as you can see, we were just under 2 seconds away from some very, very competitive lap times here, you know, proper esports level stuff right at the front of the order. About a second and a half from some pretty good lap times. And again, you know, where we're on a race setup, I was pretty happy with that, because the race setup here is very, very compromised to kind of the time trial setup. This circuit is one of the toughest to try and make a one-stop work, but because the pit lane is so long here, it is imperative that you try and make the one-stop strategy happen around this circuit. 42-38 wing angle. Again, you can actually run this quite a lot lower here. It's just what I was quite comfortable with. If you know you're normally a good qualifier, you might want to run slightly lower wing angle to make sure that you stay at the front of the order. Otherwise, you could be getting jumped by a lot of cars. If you really wanted to run quite a low downforce setup, I would potentially run 32-37. But yeah, 42-38 was what I was pretty happy with around this circuit there. 90-40 on the differential then. Again, where there's quite a few traction zones that you're still trying to rotate the car, you need the rear end to be quite locked on throttle. But again, where there's again quite a few braking zones where you're trying to rotate the car as well, you want the differential off throttle to be a little bit more unlocked, just to allow the back end of the car to slide a little bit without immediately just rotating round on you on corner entry. Minus 3.4, minus 1.9, and then absolutely minimum toe angles. Again, it's fairly close to the meta that we're seeing inside F125. 36.4 for the front and rear suspension. Again, very soft, very firm, front suspension, very soft rear suspension. 9 even, I should say, and 18 for the anti-roll bars here. Again, fairly similar to the meta. You just want quite a firm rear anti-roll bar for corners like the exit of Aqua Minerale and things like that. You want the back end to be able to squat, but not too much off the corner as well. Otherwise, you're going to cost yourself some speed. 25.52 for the ride heights. Again, if you're struggling with the curbs, I would up these to sort of 28.54. But again, you're kind of, you know, you're going to be losing a lot of speed, and the DRS straight, obviously, here is so important. It's basically the only place on the lap you can make a move, so I would be really, really focusing on that. 54.98 for your brake pressure and bias. It's just my normal inside this game. Run whatever works for you guys. And then last but not least, 25.4 front pressures, 22.1 rear pressures. This circuit is rear limited inside F125. Like I said, it's really, really important that you try and do a one-stop strategy here. I would aim to take the mediums 14 laps and then the hards 18 laps. You can try and go one lap earlier than that, but your hard tyres at the end of the Grand Prix won't be very fun. The really, really danger one is actually the rear right, so if you're struggling too much, I would say you can up that to like 22.5 psi, because it will just kind of allow the car to manage its rear tyre temperature slightly better, but you will find earlier on in the stint it is ever so slightly more oversteery on those left-hand corners as well there. So really, really critical, like I said, that you kind of try and fine-tune everything, work out what works for you, because, yeah, the pit stop time here is so long, you do not want to be having a two-stop unless it's, yeah, absolutely have to, but there we are then. That is going to be a setup and track guide here for the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. Like I said in the intro, if this is useful, please do make sure you hit that like, hit that sub button as well. We'll be back tomorrow, of course, ready in the duel in the Formula 1 crown, back for the Monaco Grand Prix. But yeah, for now, I'm going to leave you guys with a hot lap.